Again, thank you all. We are Type Electives. We're an online design school with big dreams of shaping the future of type, co-founded by Lynne and myself, Juan Villanueva. We offer courses that go beyond traditional type design education that include a large range of live online classes focused on letter forms, type design, lettering, and creative technology. Our faculty is made up of people who approach their practice more praise of criticality, respect, and love. And we are excited to work with students interested in exploring a future that is founded in those principles. Today is the last session of our fall lecture series. We're coming to an end for the year. And in this series, we invite new and established voices to share with our community. And for this particular season, we're shaking things up a bit. We're doing an AMA, which is Ask Me Anything, basically trying to give the community a chance to voice their questions to us. So thank you all for sending us your questions. It helped us a lot in planning and organizing these by themes. So far, we've covered getting started in type, questions on the theory and practice, and also font engineering and QA. And today we'll be talking about finishing and publishing a typeface with a little bit of a focus on business and marketing. So please, if you have any more questions, send them our way. We'll hope to be doing this again in the future. Our goal with this series is to try to provide insights and resources with our community. And just a reminder that we are recording this and all our lectures have been recorded and they will be made available shortly after. So you can already go into our website and just click your recording and watch, the ones from the previous weeks. So a quick item of housekeeping. We have our fall term courses already in motion. We only have one class currently open that starts on Monday. We have 4 seats left. So if you want to get started in type, sign up as soon as you can. If not, you have to wait until the spring. And we'll be announcing those classes at the end of November. So next thing is we're collaborating with the Trustica. We're running the open forum over there in Guadalajara. It's a festival of type that it's happening starting next Wednesday evening until Sunday. I think everyone here is going, right, Len and Troy? So yeah,
Yeah.
Forward to it.
so yeah, if you're going, please say hi, tell us in the chats. If not, check it out and maybe you can see you there in 2 years. It's every 2 years, just in case you didn't know. So to wrap up the housekeeping, I just want to remind you to follow us on Instagram, subscribe to our newsletter to be the first to know about classes and our events. And we always appreciate your support. Spreading the word helps us a lot. And, if you can support us with some donation, that would also be really helpful. Everything goes to our scholarship fund. So without further ado, I want to pass the mic to Lynne to introduce our guest for today.
Yeah. So we're very, very excited for our special guest for today, Troy. Troy Leinster is an independent typeface designer from Brisbane, Australia. He holds a master's degree in typeface design from the Type at Media program at the Royal Academy of Arts, which you might have heard as KBK, in The Hague, Netherlands, and a postgraduate certificate in typeface design from the Type at Cooper program here in New York at the Cooper Union. From 2014 to 2021, Troy was a full-time typeface designer at the Hoffler & Co. Type Foundry in New York. In 2022, he launched Leinster Type with retail typefaces including Brisbane, Sedgwick, and Align. Am I pronouncing that right? Align?
Align or Aline. Aline is,
Aline.
yeah.
Okay, just double checking. Aline it is, Aline. Um, Troy has accumulated over 10 years of typeface design experience and has been teaching the Principles of Typeface Design course at the Cooper Union in New York City since 2016. In 2020, Troy founded Type Masters, which is an online one-on-one coaching service to support designers through the process of making a typeface. We're very excited to have Troy join us on this virtual stage to talk about publishing and finishing a typeface. So little claps, all these little click
Thank
clicks.
you. Thank you for
Yeah,
inviting me. Lovely to be here.
we're
Uh,
very excited.
we're all
And just also for the chat, like if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat. There's also a Q&A function in the Zoom if you prefer, whichever one will collect those questions. And so think about your questions if you have them. Yeah, just to start us off, Troy, I wanted to ask you if you wouldn't mind explaining a little. Oh, you got your bio, of course, but like if there's like anything in there that relates to like your personal journey as a typeface designer or like your journey as a teacher, like anything that you might find beneficial for our listeners to know about you.
Yeah, okay. Well, I guess before I become a type-based designer, I was a graphic designer. So, there's a lot of graphic designers out there that kind of dabble in type-based design. There's a lot of type-based designers that aren't graphic designers as well. But that's my particular background. I studied graphic design in Brisbane. I had a graphic design studio for a while, about 10 years, and then I decided to specialize in type. So that's when I come to Type at Cooper and did the condensed program here, which was actually the first condensed program in 2011. So over 10 years ago now. Time goes quick. But yeah, that was sort of my start before graphic design. Sorry, before type design. And now, I guess having been a typeface designer for around 10 years, and I've gathered that experience, and I'm kind of sharing that with other people, and through sharing and teaching and the coaching, I'm also learning a lot more about what I do and how to improve what I do. So it's a two-way thing, sharing and learning at the same time. So that's kind of what's the motivation is for me right now.
Do you find that the type of folks who are learning type design or becoming type designers are different like over time? Like I feel like a lot of things in the type design like field has changed. Like for example, I remember like when I was like learning from like 2014. Oh, and side fact is that Troy was the teaching assistant for my type design class at Cooper. And I remember like thinking like, wow, it's like wild that like all like my classmates have like some sort of graphic design background or most of them, but like the folks we were learning from did not have a design background, which was like which I thought was like, wow, like this is like a big shift. I wonder if like this is like part of a larger trend or it's just my class or anything like that. Yeah, do you notice any shifts in the demographics of the field?
I think mostly people are coming in, the students or people that I coach have some sort of design background or graphic design background, but every now and then there's someone. I've had landscape designers, I've had industrial designers, architects, and mathematicians. It's really bizarre.
Mm.
Those quirky other fields. People are
Mhm.
really interested in learning and broadening their skills, and I think this is a perfect kind of mix of design and technical ability. So it kind of goes across the field quite broadly, across the design field, from visual to really technical, which I think is a great um, it keeps you motivating, keeps you interest because you're constantly learning.
Yeah, I also want to add in terms of demographics, like I've noticed, like a lot of people that are entering into type are a lot younger than I was when I started. Uh, which is, I don't know, I think it's illuminating because they have so much opportunity, so much time still to explore.
Right. When I studied graphic design, there was no type design courses accessible to me at all. Um, and I searched everywhere, but and I had to actually relocate to Melbourne from Brisbane to actually study a small short course in typeface design before I did any other typeface design courses. So back then you really had to kind of pack up your bags and travel to seek the information. But now it's so much easier. A lot of things are online, so it's so much more accessible. So, you're getting a lot more of a varied um background of people learning typeface design, which is fantastic.
Yeah, there's a question that somebody just asked, which I think is a good segue into start talking a little bit more about business. But so the question is, do you still do graphic design, or did you entirely shift us into being a type designer?
You know, for a long time, I did an entire shift because I was kind of thinking that I wanted to be a type-based designer, and graphic design was my history. You know, that's in the past. But now, making type and having to promote type, I'm I'm starting to get back to my graphic design roots in order to help me to do that. So I kind of let the skill go, although it's still there in, you know, in the background. I now have to kind of spend a lot more time getting those skills back and using those skills as a part of my practice as a full um, set of skills that I need as a type-based designer. I think, you know, um, yeah. So now I'm coming back into graphic design land in recent time.
Yeah, it's very like interesting how feel like the I mean, this is probably true for like any business really, but the smaller it gets, the more hats you need to wear, right? So like now that you're like you have your own foundry, you need to be your own like receptionist, be your own like like
Yeah,
be
you got
your
to
own
do
graphic
everything.
designer, like everything.
Exactly. You've got to wear many hats, and I feel like the more typefaces that you make, the bigger the job becomes. You just become busier and busier, you know, making stuff and being visible in the world. So, yeah, it's definitely a juggling act.
Yeah. And I think like this is like where like perhaps we can start moving into like the topic of today, which is publishing and finishing a typeface. But like one contextual question that I wanted to ask you before we shift there is that like you teach a lot of students like all the time in different kind of programs. Some are short, some are longer, some are more, you know what I mean? And like and often as for people who have not taken like a formalized course before, I think there is this notion that you learn everything like from start to finish, and then you like bam, you exit the program and you now you're a one person factory. But I don't think like I don't think that's true in any sense of like any program, right? Like so maybe could you give us a little bit of background into like where where you see like students kind of leave at the end of their formalized like workshop or course or whatever, and then maybe we can start talking from there.
Yeah, okay. So I think from my experience teaching the Principles of Typeface Design course at Cooper Union, that's a 10-week course, 3 hours, one evening a week, but there's a lot of additional hours that people put in, you know, between sessions. With that particular course, most people end up with an uppercase and a lowercase, and you know, enough to make some mock-ups and things like that to make the project look like a final typeface. But you're right. I think most, even my master's degree program, you know, we had a day where they showed us how to kern, and you know, but it's like this is too much information. I'm going to learn how to kern when I'm ready to kern, because you never, you know, at that stage where you're ready to do the kerning or the engineering. So, you know, it's tough, but you have to kind of learn that when you're ready to learn it. And one of the reasons I created the Type Masters one-on-one coaching is to kind of help people get from that first phase into the nitty-gritty of the things that they don't typically learn at type design school. And that's stuff that I've just learned over the years, and I don't know it all, but I tend to know where to look if there's something that someone, you know, every process is different and every typeface is different and it requires different um, skills. And I don't think we should let that limit us and think that we need to know them all. We just need to know who to ask for help or who to get to coach us in that little area. And I think coaching is the thing for me. Um, for my business, I use different coaches for different areas. And I think that's really useful. And it's quite different to taking a class. You know, you're learning on the job, and that's how I learn. I'm not much of a academic person that reads books and watch YouTube videos. It just doesn't, you know, I'll just fall asleep. I need to have a project and I need to have someone to show me how to finish it or how to do this or how to do that. And that's what I like about coaching. And I think that's what I want to kind of offer other people is, you know, a bit of a guideline to how we could tackle their particular situation.
Wow. So you're saying that like you coach people, but you also have coaches to help you like in your process as well.
Totally, in all areas. Well, at the moment, I have one coach that I've worked with for 5 years that I meet on a regular basis. That's more of a
Wow.
general um,
Mhm.
coach in business, and then I have a specialized coach that um, is in the business of typeface design, so I can talk to him about um, business things that the other coach doesn't understand. And then when I need to learn how to
Mm.
use a particular program, I'll find the right person and say, hey, can you coach me how to do this? And do you know what I mean? And then I get specific answers to my questions, not in a class when you're just getting generalized information.
Mm. I love that because it sounds like this model is like much more like sustainable in terms of like you're always like learning like even as a teacher and as like a professional. So it's not like you're like it's like a one-way street where like you take a class and it's just one way out and like
And you're out. Yeah. Well, the other way to look at it too is when I'm learning from someone else, that's extra
Mhm,
skills that I'm gathering that I can share with
mhm.
someone else as well. So it's kind of feeding the pot in order to,
Mm.
you know, pass that on as well.
Yeah, that's awesome. Like lived experience and yeah, learning from others. We're getting a lot of
Yeah, no.
questions now.
Yeah, we should go to these
Right.
questions.
That's good.
All right. All right. I think perhaps we can start with these questions of like like starting to publish or like being ready to publish, right? Like I think like we just like we're talking about how in a class you might make like some designs that you're following through, making a character set, maybe you have a certain style or a family planned. um like when is it useful to start thinking about like setting up a foundry or and like in general like how do you know when you're good enough to publish something?
How do you know when you're good enough to publish something? I that's a tough question because it's kind of like subjective sometimes, but I I think it's important to communicate and get feedback, and you'll start to understand where you're at in your process. And like any skill, it needs to be practiced. So if you're a musician and you want to learn how to be a concert pianist, and you're only practicing once a month, you know, that's going to take longer than if you're practicing every day. And typeface design to me is very much like that. It's not something that you just do every now and then and you can expect great results. Do you know what I mean? It's a career path, it's a craft. You've got to develop those skills and invest that time. So, you know, maybe you can judge from the amount of effort that you're putting in. That
Mhm.
might be a way. Yeah, what do you guys think?
I think from what I've seen, a lot of people when they launch, they usually have more than one typeface, or they have typefaces that they have, let's say, enough so that they can build a buzz around it. Uh, they release one, every month or every other week, which kind of tells you, okay, they've already planned this ahead to have something
Okay.
ongoing to make some noise. Um,
Yeah, I have an opinion on that. I mean, I was always told
Mm.
I had to have 3 typefaces before I started a foundry, and I personally think
Mm.
that's crap. I mean, why spend 6 months or a year making a typeface and sit on it until you have 2 more? I mean, there's what's the motivation? As far as I'm concerned, as soon as you have a typeface and you're proud of it and you think it's ready, get it out there. Every time you release a typeface, that's a marketing opportunity. If you release 3 at once, that's 1 splash. If you release 3 individually, that's 3 splashes. So, you know, I think get it out there. You never know what that's going to lead to. That's showing people that you're making type, that you could potentially be doing custom type. And you're building your library. So, you know, when you're building a library and building a career, you need things to talk about and you need things to show. And I think by spreading that out over time and growing steadily, I think to me that makes more sense now. Maybe 20 years ago, that was not how you would do it, but I think now there's so many people with type design skills making type. I think just get it out there. If people think it's no good, they won't buy it. And then, you know, maybe they'll buy the next one.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah,
big
I
question.
agree. Oh,
Like,
sorry.
no, no, I agree with you. Like, it's a mindset shift, like people having to work on this precious thing for so long and only publish when it's ready. And now we have things like future phones and a lot of other foundries offering things in progress, which are super valuable because sometimes all you need to make a design is just a very basic character set. And then
Yeah,
you
and the thing that you will find and that I'm experiencing myself is 3 years after you've released something, you kind of want to improve it. You know, these are pieces of art that you will always have a new perspective on when you learn more. So nothing's ever really finished. So you know, there's no point waiting um until it's finished if it's never finished, right? You just need to get it out there and learn and then improve, re-release, update, whatever you need to do.
Yeah, I
That would be
think
my advice.
this I think like this can nicely segue into like the other like questions that we have about like publishing a typeface. Like there's a lot of questions and I think like this is one of these questions where what's the best way to sell slash license a font? Like why do some designers choose to sell independently versus like selling it through like third party? Is it better or like, or should you be submitting to other existing foundries? Like why do people make the choices like that they do? Is I think like a huge question that people have.
Yeah, well, from my experience, it's you know, I've submitted a couple of my like Brisbane, for example, which was my graduation project, to a couple of places. They didn't want it. And you know, that's how it goes. And so the quickest way to get your typeface out there is to do it yourself. Like that, it doesn't mean everyone doesn't want it. It just means it doesn't fit in their library. They probably have something that looks quite similar or does the same job. So to me, the quickest way to get moving is to release your own typefaces. Um,
Mm.
Releasing it through a foundry or a distributor is great because they have an existing market, so you can kind of get in there. But you know, you're paying for that in the percentage or the royalties that you get. But if you decide to do your own thing, you know, it's going to take a long, long time to kind of get the eyeballs on it. But I think it's also a really good way because, like I said before, when you put a typeface out there, you want to be able to license it, but it's also showing people that you can do what you do, um, the the quality, or you know, it solves a problem. It's something that perhaps someone will hire you to do. You know, you just got to. It's a great tool to show people that you can make a custom typeface, for example.
yeah, it's like
Yeah, I
a
suppose
like a
like, oh,
designer
sorry.
with Oh, no, no. I was gonna say like it's like being a designer without having like a website to show your work. Um,
Mm.
unless it's like
Yeah.
super connected and people know you, like you'll get work, but otherwise you'll really have to have something to show for. Um,
Yeah, and it's never been easier to publish your own typefaces. I mean, I know now Behance has you can sell digital products on Behance, however you pronounce it. Um, and I don't think they even take a big cut or a cut. I don't know. I think if you're a pro user, you don't pay a cut. I'm not quite sure, but there's so many easy ways to sell a digital product now. It could be simply email me for a license, you know?
Yeah, I mean, this is true. I know like some folks who like or who just like put up some screenshots up on Instagram and they're like, hey, like if you want a license of it, you can just DM me. And
Right.
folks have sold like hundreds of licenses, like or like they start out like that way, and like it's just like very like how do you call it? Like there's so many different avenues where you can sell little things, like little digital products that are like as light as typefaces these days now, right? Is it Ko-fi, Ko/fi, like the tipping platform?
Oh, yeah,
I
yeah.
think they also do like product or digital product deliveries now, or like recently I was trying to tip someone on it and then like it said like, hey, like do you want to add on like a little PDF that contains like some comic strips, like, and then like, and then I
For
was
an
like, oh
extra
my God,
copy.
this is great. Yeah, for an extra copy. And I was like,
Yeah.
wow, like this actually would be great for typeface designers. If we have like a little thing where you're just like, hey, like you can have this for a price of a coffee because I made it over like an afternoon. Like you just add it on there
Right.
and
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
I think the quickest way um to market is maybe the best way. Just get it out there. You're gonna learn. You're gonna lose some, you're gonna win some, you're gonna learn from that experience and improve. This is a long journey. This is not one and done. You just got to build and learn and change and evolve.
Mm.
Yeah.
Well, we have so many questions now.
Yeah, I know. We got to go through these
We're
questions.
gonna get through
Yeah.
all of them, but we'll
That's
try.
great. That's great.
Which
All
one should
right.
you want to go?
What about the legal licensing things? I think
Oh,
that's another big category that a lot of people want to know about. There are questions about like how important is a EULA, which stands for End User License Agreement, which is like a little document whenever you use any software. I'm pretty sure if you go on, I'm sure if you're like using something on the App Store, you probably scroll to the way bottom and just like agree and
Look
just
at
like went
go. Yeah,
on with
yeah.
your life. Yeah, yeah. And every typeface has this because it's a little piece of, like a digital product that you're using, right? So how important is a EULA? And a related question is like, how do you even learn the legal side or what even licensing is? Because a lot of designers or creatives come from this perspective where like they're very passionate about the making, but like they're not really sure like what like the other side, like what do you do afterwards?
Right. Yeah, I think it's important to have a EULA and an outline of what and how people can use your typeface. Um, but again, I think it's a process of starting somewhere and improving over the years. And I'm not a intellectual property lawyer, and you don't have to be. We need to realize that in our creative community, we have to reach out and use each other's services to benefit our own process. So to start with, I think you can easily find a EULA online and go read through it and pick out the bits that you think are appropriate to what you're doing and make a PDF and throw it together. And that could be a good, cheap start. I mean, who knows? Maybe you forget something and you get screwed, but you're going to learn from that mistake. And at the beginning, when you may not have a lot of money to invest in an attorney, that could be a good start, right? Secondly, when I started my foundry, I simply used XYZ Type on their GitHub, have a really useful business documents, I think it's called. So they have licenses for desktop, web, app, things like that they share. So they've invested in this for the community and shared that with the community, which is amazing. Be careful to read it, because they do things their way and you might want to do things another way. So you can use that as a starting point and perhaps manipulate that. And then maybe after a few sales and you're getting a bit more into this, you can then take that as a draft to an attorney and go, hey, read over this. I think I want to add this or change that, and get them to manipulate that into something that suits you, because everyone is just so different. There is not one that's going to suit everyone. We all have different preferences. And maybe it's going to cost you $1,000. I don't know, but maybe that will save you 10. So, I think it's important to kind of wait for the right time, and go through this in stages and realize that, you're going to get better at this, and you're going to eventually earn a little bit more money that'll allow you to kind of invest more into it. I think it's a hard ask to get everyone to spend all this money doing that when you haven't even sold any licenses yet. So ease
Yeah.
into it.
Yeah, I mean, this also feeds into the question that Masahiro asked, like how to protect your font asset. And I think this is the way, right? Like you create like agreements like the EULA. And I also think what you said, Troy, about like just doing your best effort for what you can at the time and just moving on from it is, I think, the right mindset to have, or at least like that's the mindset I advocate for. Like if you wait for your typeface to have the perfect design, to have like the perfect amount of kerning, to have the perfect EULA, to have the perfect distribution platform, like you'll never get anything done really. And then maybe there won't even be like half a splash, you know?
Right.
Um, and in many ways, I mean, this is just me also as a person who makes a lot of website, but like there's no real way to prevent any kind of piracy like at all, right? Like if someone buys your typeface and they're using it, it's out in the world, like you can't really control it. And
Right.
in many ways, like you just have to get started, and as you get traction, like you will naturally, I think, find the ways in which where you can plug the holes if there is any leaks. I mean, yeah, that's just that's
Right.
my opinion, but I don't know if either of you think any differently.
I heard a really good metaphor about the EULA. I forgot who said it, so it wasn't me, but some lecturer online. Basically, they compare the EULA as like a fence you put around your house. Like, if somebody wants to get into your house and do bad things, they will. But at least the fence signifies that you're protecting something. Now, whether you are
Right.
okay with fences or not, that's on you. But the
And
EULA is
the
kind of
thing is,
protects you. So go ahead. Go ahead, Troy.
the thing is too, that there is always going to be people that don't respect
Right.
um, that situation. But large businesses definitely will, because they don't want to be sued. They don't want to look bad. They're not trying to sneak around. They might try to make a good deal with you, but they're not going to steal your typeface. And I think, even with trial fonts, I offer trial fonts that are exactly the same as my full license fonts, because I really believe that designers want to use the font, and not just A to Z, or 1 to 9. They want the thing. And you just have to trust people. That license that they're using is a trial license, and it says trial. And when they are ready to put it out in the world, they should license the proper font, or the full version. You just have to trust people to do the right thing, I think, in this industry. Otherwise, you will constantly be putting up walls and preventing people from using your thing. And sometimes, you know, maybe if someone will steal it and make something great, will be a good little promotion piece. So, you know,
Yeah. I
it
mean,
shouldn't be
there's like
worried about that.
I love that like fence metaphor one. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
it's I also think like this whole idea of like doing your due diligence and doing your best, but accepting that things can't be perfect and the thing that you're making, the way you're distributing it, like the way you're enforcing like people to not steal your I feel like it's like a lot of these things are changing over time. Like I think I feel like maybe even like 10 years ago, there was this idea that like if you put something out in the world, you can never get it back. Right.
Mm,
But I feel like even for software in general, like that's changing. Like your phone will update into this new thing and something won't work. And I'll be like, people will just be like, oh, like it broke my app, but like I'll just wait a week or so until they like patch it. Right. And I think it's the same for typefaces. Like, oh, like this little thing over here has a problem, but I'm just gonna like email this person or put up a issue on GitHub and they'll fix it, right? Like there's a lot of this mentality, or even for licensing, right? We all have that experience where like you're like, oh, this new subscription service is great. It's so cheap. And then like you're using it for like a year. And then like they're like, well, now it's double the price now. And then like of course like some people will leave, but like there's like some people who are like, you know what, that's fair. It's like I use this all the time, whatever, like take my money, you deserve it, right? Like so I feel like it's like everything is more valuable now and maybe
mm.
more forgiving in a good way.
Yeah, and I know just recently from attending Adobe Max, like Adobe, for
Mm,
example, is working on content credentials, which is this new thing where you'll be able to, and I know Monotype, Juan, maybe you can speak to that, where I know they're investing a lot of time in the typeface side to help us protect
Yeah.
our intellectual property. So, you know, I'm hoping in the future you'll be able to hold your phone up to a poster and it will break down
mm,
all the elements of the poster. It will tell you who took the photograph, who made the illustration, who what typeface it is and who made the typeface, and you can click on it and it'll take you to the foundry or the
mm.
photographer or the illustrator. I really believe that is going to happen. So, you know, things are going to get better. We just need to figure out how to make that work properly.
Totally. I totally agree with that. Yeah, we still have a lot of questions to go through. I'm
Yeah,
nervous.
I know,
Go
but
for
it's
it. Go
all
for it.
right.
If we have
Yeah,
time. Yeah, I got time.
yeah. Perhaps like we can ask about like we can pose this question about custom typefaces. Somebody asked, more and more companies are wanting custom typefaces that only they can use, and agencies and design studios see this as an exciting opportunity. And this I think is a pretty recent shift in, you know, like in relative terms. And the question is, I'm curious to know how type designers feel about this shift.
About the shift to more someone owning your work. Is that what you mean? Do you
Yeah, I
think?
think the question is like instead of like sort of like picking things off like the shelf, so to speak, like whereas like
Oh,
maybe
okay.
previously you look in a catalog and you're like this or this will be our brand typeface. And so I suppose it's like twofold. The first is like making custom typefaces for brands, and every brand having their own typeface, and also like the exclusivity of it. Like, oh, like they've paid for this and this can't, you know, nobody else can buy this now.
Right. Yeah. My I think my first kind of suggestion to someone thinking about doing a custom typeface is could we use an existing typeface and customize that
Mm.
to, you know, help them keep the price down, help us utilize something that we've already created and perhaps earn a little bit more money from that. I'm not a big fan of the idea of selling an outright um, ownership kind of license of a typeface. And to be honest,
Mm.
very experienced in this area, but it seems like giving your artwork up forever and not being able to earn a little bit over the years from that residual income kind of thing, might be cutting it off a little too early. Like I would rather give someone exclusive use for a number of years. And let's face it, brands tend to get bored after a few years. They spend all this money and then, 5 years later, oh, we want to represent ourselves slightly differently now, or the market's changed and we need to do a brand refresh. Well, you know what? They're going to need another custom typeface. So, maybe owning it for the rest of time is not what they need. But like I said, I'm not really experienced in that area yet. Maybe you guys have more to
Well,
input.
I think I see obviously a trend of like software as service, right? Where once you used to buy a whole suite of software for one price and you could use it until the new OS updates and then you have to start again sometimes. But now you just pay every month, just like your subscription model, which, you can hate it or love it. At the same, the best part of it is that you're getting the latest updates every time. And I'm seeing the same thing, the same parallel with Type, as in it's kind of ironic someone wants to own this forever when they probably going to rebrand next year or they're going to
Right.
expand and they're going to need something new, right? So it's one, the price cost would probably go down if you don't this you can give the designer back their license, or if just exclusive period of time. That's something part of the negotiation I would feel with you, the creator, and the person who's commissioning it, licensing it. Like you both benefit from creating something exciting and new. And also, from the I guess the price difference from having to buy the whole thing as opposed to having just the exclusivity for a certain period of time.
Mm,
I think as a type designer, I feel like that is a good shift because you still own the work. It's your work. Um,
right. Yeah. I think the idea of subscribing to a typeface is interesting. Rather than having to subscribe to an entire library, maybe you're subscribing to a typeface and the development of that over, or the additions, maybe you're promising additions.
well, I think that isn't that the future fonts model in a way? Like you're subscribing to the typeface and you get all
Yeah,
the
I guess so. Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
Well, I guess in the case of a custom typeface, it's more like a retainer. Like you have your typeface like on retainer. As long as you keep paying them, you can keep on using it. I like that model a lot, actually, right? I mean, like there's um I mean like I've worked on custom typefaces like where in it was like almost done, or maybe I've even handed it off, and like they get a new C-suite person who wants to put their own spin on things, and it like it's NDA'd and it's dead even before it became alive. Like like and it like just kind of
Right.
crushes
There's a
your
lot
heart
of,
like a little bit.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I mean I agree. Like whenever you can. Although I think like it's almost like I don't even know if it's what is it called, like an emotional choice. Like I think like some clients or some people like are just very invested in this idea of no one else can use this. So like I suppose this is where like you need to go somewhere to earn like a little business convincing hat for yourself so you can walk in and be
Right.
like,
Yeah. Yeah. Make sure you're
yeah,
getting, yeah.
yeah. On a related question,
yeah.
I feel like
Hmm.
someone asked recently, and we could probably give a quick answer to this.
Yep.
We
Hmm.
speak about custom font licensing and pricing. Asking like when someone approaches you for that, how do you go about it in the process where like do you talk
To
to
quote on a custom
Mm.
typeface.
yeah, because I know
Yeah.
you did. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Um, I kind of base it on an alley rate that I have in my head that I don't tell, it's not important to the
Everyone's different.
customer, but I tend to kind of calculate the amount of glyphs in a particular set. Maybe I'll say, okay, an hour per glyph to cover the design, the proofing, the kerning, that, start there, whatever your hourly rate is that you need to survive. Um, um, and then base it on the amount of characters. Some people, you know, they just want uppercase, lowercase, and figures and some basic punctuation. Well, then you can kind of figure out, okay, well, that's so many hours. And then, you know, you might want to have a price for, you know, writing some open type features if you need that, and then maybe a price for manufacturing or getting someone else to manufacture it for you, or getting someone else to kern it for you. You know, there's that service out there now as well. So I think you're going to allude to it. I've made a custom pricing template, which you can kind of punch in your hourly rate and manipulate it to kind of suit you. And we all know that at the end of the day, it's going to spit out a price and we're going to go, oh, does that feel good? Or does that feel too much? So then, you know, there's a little bit of tweaking until you kind of go, okay, I think the client's going to be happy with that. And I think I'm going to be happy with that. So that's kind of your happy medium to, yeah, that's how I'd approach it, I think.
Yeah, Sean very kindly put the link
Oh,
that
thank you,
for
Sean.
Troy's How to
Yeah,
Price a
yeah.
Custom Type. It says to definitely check that out. I think when I was younger, I used to when I would go around asking like how much do I charge, and people would always tell me like, well, how much does it cost you to live? And I'd be like, that's not an answer. But like I think as time goes on, I really do notice like that is like a real
That's the
answer. Like
answer. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, like do the math, you know? Like if you're like I need to make like X amount of money as I want to be paid X amount of money as a salary and I want to take like a certain amount of vacation days a year, then you subtract that and then like you go back be like, okay, how much money do I need to be making like every month, every week, every day? And then like in a day, am I going to be
Every
working 6
hour.
hours a day? Am I going to be
Mhm.
am I open to working 10? Like, you know, and then like you have to go backwards and you know make sure you count in sick days for yourself like and make sure you're
Healthcare,
saving for whatever yeah
everything. Yeah, yeah.
healthcare yeah like right like your dog like you know whatever
Yeah.
it is like
The
you got
dog,
your
the cat.
tomatoes
Yeah.
yeah so it's really like but do the math. I think like there is just no magical number that's going to be perfect for everyone for every situation
Right.
like
And I think that's why
so
we
yeah
shouldn't, you know, I think that's why we shouldn't work on promoting our hourly rate, because you know, you could be 150, I could be 50, you could be 80, but maybe I'm quicker or you're quicker,
yeah
or you know, it doesn't make any sense. All it
hmm
Yeah.
does is make the customer watch how many hours you're spending, or you know, judge your price against someone else's, which really is not, I mean, it's not comparing apples with apples. It's
Right.
so
I
it's
think it,
better to just quote a price for a particular job, make sure you're happy with it, make sure it covers your time, make sure, you know, and then that's all you can do and hope for the best.
yeah, yeah. Something I wanted to add, just to perhaps people that are starting to think about and don't even have a client yet. The way I think about it is like the work times the value that the typeface will give the client and yourself. Like you should know how much it's going to take you, and a lot of that comes from experience of making it yourself. Like my 30 minutes working on a typeface might be different from a student who might take 2 hours, right? So the hourly
mm,
rate there doesn't really compare in that sense. But also the value. If you're valuing a typeface for a small business, you know, probably you can maybe lower it so you can support it and maybe get a project piece out of it, something that's fair. And the same thing goes with a big brand. They probably have a budget and they can, and also depending on the designer, if you are quote unquote someone who has a bigger platform, they're also benefiting from your own name appearing in the project as well. If they're going to use that, you know, you should also price a little bit higher. And the one thing that ties to the EULA, right? If you're making a custom typeface for a client, this is the moment where you actually have to read the EULA and probably get a lawyer involved, because
mm,
exclusivity to, let's say, a friend who's going to make a website is different from exclusivity to a client who's much bigger. And there we're gonna, the word they use exploit, because they're going to exploit not only the work, but they're going to exploit your name, the brand, everything, right? And you want to make sure you understand all the terms. And it's a lot of work, but at the end of the day, that's the one time where if you're um, pricing something, you know, above, let's say 10K or 20K, you know, you might want to invest at least 500 or 1,000 on a lawyer so that you can protect yourself. And
Mhm.
it's worth the investment because once you have something legal, you can start from there for your next project when it comes by. So work times value. I don't know where I heard that, but yeah, that's it.
That's a good quote.
Mm.
Yeah. All right. So I think we are very short on time, so I'm gonna do rapid fire for the last few questions. So I'll blurt out a question, and if you have something to say, like one sentence, does that work?
Okay, I'll give it a go.
Yeah, yeah. All right. So just like little quick blurbs,
Yeah,
rapid
yeah, yeah.
fire. Where in your learning did you feel like there was a shift to feeling like you knew what you were doing?
When you have to do it yourself and not rely on other people, that's when you start to really learn, I think. But learning doesn't stop there, right? Was that quick enough?
100%.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, Juan just plusing one. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'll also plus one for that too. I think also with the caveat that like sometimes you'll never really think that you know 100% of what you're doing, but if you feel like you know 80%, you're pretty good, I
Yeah.
think. All right. The next question is, our problems can come from any number of places. One place is that we don't know what we don't know. In your experience, what are the top three things that type designers or new type design studios don't know that you think they should know? Maybe each of us can give one thing.
Ooh, I have my.
Um,
Juan, what's your thing?
Oh, I think mine is
everyone
really easy. Just email a
is
type,
what?
talk to a type designer. They will tell you everything they know, they want to share. We want to make our industry better. So if you have a question about type, just talk to a type designer. We're here. We're not scary. We really want to make sure you get the best typeface or the best thing for your project. And whatever it is we can help, we can probably connect you with people like Troy said. So yeah.
Yeah, I would just quickly add to that, well, or reiterate on that. You know, you often see big branding studios making logos and they're not talking to a type designer. And they think, oh, we don't, they're probably thinking they're just a graphic designer or something. But immediately when you see that logo, you think, oh, damn, if only I had the chance to chat to them for an hour, that logo would have been better, you know, much better because they're not looking at the same things we're looking at. So, you know, definitely chat to a type designer if you're
Yeah, I'll
making a
also just
logo type.
add. Yeah, I'll just like add that like there is no answer. I think like that's like the thing that a lot of like new people think like that there's an answer. Like how do you finish something? There's an answer. How do you price something? There's an answer. Which typeface is like the most
Right,
accessible? There's an
totally.
answer. But like I think there really isn't an answer. Of course, like there is like things that are wrong, but at some point you receive like this is generally like pretty good. Like the answers can be varied, and I think that's a frustrating answer for beginners. But I think that's what I think about all the
Yeah,
time.
yeah, that's a good one. Mm. It's
All
not
right,
exact.
next. Um, is there ever a reason to retire a typeface?
I no.
Yeah, I think so.
Unless it doesn't work anymore. I don't know. No.
Yeah,
What do you think?
keep them,
That was
you
a quick,
know. It'll become cool again, you know. That's
yeah, in 20
fashion
years.
cycles around. Yeah, in 20 years.
Just add to it, build it over the
Yeah,
years. Refresh it.
yeah. All right. And then there's the next question of any recommendations for someone not in a type design program to find project learning type of work or apprenticeship slash internship style learning?
Mm.
I
Well,
mean,
I
you
think
can also join Troy's coaching program.
right, the one-on-one coaching that's kind of apprenticeship style. But I mean, there's so many resources online, including Lynn, your I know a lot of people that have done your online program, which is free, right? I think.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
As a starter, just to get moving. And I think, you know, that's so accessible. You don't have to spend any money. You just do it by Lynn a coffee. It just takes time, right? Anything takes time. That's the most expensive thing.
Yeah. And then What type foundries take submission? Oh, wait, sorry. I also wanted to plug Juan's Type
Oh,
Crew
yeah.
platform.
Oh, yes.
Yes, that
Always forget.
100%.
Yeah, I have a call
Yes.
with
And
her next week, and like things do get busy sometimes. So I would encourage people to reach out. Like when I say talk to a type designer, I think there's a list in Type Crew of people who want to chat with you.
yeah. I mean, like that's I think like that I would say is also an answer to there's been some similar questions about like, how do you self-learn? How do you like go get mentorship? And that's like where I would add in all of these like recommendations. Find coaches, talk to people through Type Crew, reach out to type designers for their recommendations. Yeah. All right. Okay. Next question. Is it okay if we go like maybe five over, Troy? Is
Of
that
course.
is
Yeah,
that
yeah.
okay? Oh, thank you, thank you.
I'm in
All
Miami.
right.
It's not sunny outside. I'm just chilling out.
Taking away from your beach time.
Yeah, yeah.
All right. What type foundries take submissions?
Hmm. Well, you'll know because you'll see them promoting other people's typefaces. But I think even if there's a foundry that you think you can add value to, perhaps you've got an idea that fits in their library that you can't see that, you think it'll fit in their library, they don't have something there, but just submit it. I think everyone is open um to that. They can all, they'll just say no if they're not. But maybe for you, they need what you're offering. So I would just send it to anyone. But I think it's important to not just send it to anyone, be very strategic in who you're approaching. Make sure that they don't have what you're offering, make sure it adds to their library, make sure that they're a foundry that you can relate to, make sure you've got the same belief system, make sure that they represent you and promote you in the way that you would want that. Make sure you're happy with their discounting policy. Sometimes a distributor or foundry will want to offer 90% off. Maybe you're not okay with that. So be very selective.
Good
Yeah,
tip.
totally agree.
Yeah, send it to places with an asterisk. All right. Okay. So, um, in terms of starting a type foundry, is it necessary to focus on a particular language or a group of languages? I mean, for me, I think off the bat, I would answer like whatever language you use the most is probably where you should start at because you won't be the one person user for a long time. And then you can like sort of like expand. Yeah, so I'll pass it up. I'll pass the mic to you too.
I agree. Just start with what you know and what your experience is, where your knowledge lies. Mhm.
Yeah, same. Start with basic basic Latin, if you're doing Latin, and see if you can support more languages as much as you can.
Yeah. I mean, again, like I feel like the internet these days, if someone needs something from you, like people will email you and be like, "Hey, I need to type this in my name and you don't have it." Like people will let you know, and
Right.
then you
Yeah,
can add
that's true. Yeah.
it. Yeah. All right. Well, the next question is, other than social media, which a lot of people struggle with, where can you find potential buyers slash users? What works and what doesn't work in your experience? Design conferences, LinkedIn, buy ads?
For me, it's building relationships, full stop. Social media is like, I don't know. I do not care how many followers. The follower amount means absolutely nothing because I know people that have 10,000 followers and they don't sell any more than I do, and I've only got 3,000 or something. I think the most important thing is build relationships um, in person as much as possible, but also online or, through teaching or sharing information. Um, or just through a particular interest group that maybe you're involved in. Build relationships. They're the people that are going to buy your fonts. Every now and then, someone else will come in and by a font, but you know, it's the people that know you because they want to build a relationship with you and they want to be able to trust you. And when they buy something from you, they want to know it's going to work. And you're not going to run away from them, you know, and leave them with this thing that they bought that didn't work. So I think it's, you know, building trust and relationships. What do you
Yeah,
guys
I will
think?
also, yeah, I'll also say like the same thing. Like it doesn't need to be the most famous whatever designer. Like like you know, like it's really finding someone who will find a meaningful connection with your typeface. And this could just be as simple as like, hey, like I know that my neighbor does a lot of bake sales. And hey, like, do you want to use my typeface? And like they'll be like, oh, of course, you made it. Like, you know, like you're my buddy.
Yeah.
And then like it really starts from there. And I will also say that like at a certain point, like you'll find that like certain typefaces just find different homes with different communities for reasons that you just like never really knew. And whether or not that makes you money is not something that I can predict or am really bad at. But you know, people have little tiny groups and they're like, wow, like look at like some people who do knitting circles really like this thing, right? Like so you just really never know. You just have to get it out there and you just never know where it's
See
gonna
what
hit. And
happens. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think basic level, I think people have to see your work, whatever it is. And you can't put all your bets on Instagram because I don't really see my friends' work on Instagram anymore. I see a lot of ads.
Yeah.
Sometimes LinkedIn is more about emotion, people sharing emotional statements, as opposed to, you know, job opportunities. So you have to feel it out and see what's working. But at the end of the day, it's like, is your audience other type designers? Probably not, right? You want designers, you want people to use it. So those are the people you should be, quote unquote, you know, uh, mingling or, you know, mixing with.
Mhm.
The people that you want to use your work.
Yeah. Yeah. Hopefully like that one's just really hard because it's just like
Yeah.
it's just like giving advice like make friends, you know, like it's
Yeah.
like, it's like
That's
yeah.
true. Just make
It's
friends. A lot of friends.
yeah. Yeah. You never know though. Like it's like sometimes like like I have a dog and sometimes I go to the dog park and like I remember seeing this one guy who had a business card for his dog's dog breed. And I was like, "Oh, what's that dog? Your dog looks really cool." And he like just like pulled up like a business card that like had like a like
The
information about
dog.
the dog breed. It was like Basenji, it's like an African dog. And I'd be like, "This is wild, but you know what? This is gold." And I was like, I gave it to somebody that day and I was just like, you know, that maybe that's how it starts.
Yeah, wait
Make
for
a phone
people to
call
ask
or
you the question. And then Donnie just said about, so type design is not for introverts. You know, if you're an introvert, I think find other networks that will represent you,
Mm.
or find the other introverts that you feel comfortable with. I mean, you know, yeah,
yeah.
you just gotta find your little way.
Yeah, you have to get out of your comfort zone, a little bit, you know, and talk to people, and figure out what you can manage. Also, as an introvert, you know, I don't really like being out
We're
there.
all introverts, right?
Uh, you know, like if you
At the
find a nice
beginning.
crowd, that's
Yeah. All right.
I
Next
think when you
question.
get just
Oh,
one
sorry.
little thing,
Yeah.
I think when you become more, when you do what you're doing for a long time, you'll become more confident. And
Mm.
there, you know, it's a long journey, so I don't think there's a rush. If you feel like you're an introvert now, just it's okay. Just keep doing, keep practicing. You'll get to a point where you feel like, oh, this is good. Or someone else will say it's good and it'll give you a little boost and you'll start to um, chat and connect more with the as you gain experience. That's what happened to me. I was really shy at this. I'm like, this is shit. I'm no good at this. And then, you know, over years and years and years, you become, you know, good at it. And it's a slow thing. Don't look at it as a quick thing. It's a slow journey, a long journey,
Marathon.
a
Very
marathon. Yeah.
long. All
still
right.
running.
Next question. Um, do type design programs give you a solid foundation? Obviously, none of them cover everything, and there's a lot of self-learning, but did you feel a shift in your career after completing them? And then another person also asked you, Troy, was KVK worth it?
Oh, well, I think definitely any type of type design, short course, long course, whatever is a great start and a great foundation. And I think KBK was an amazing experience for me, and it was an intense learning environment. I think I really started to learn on the job. So it kind of got my foot in the door as a little junior designer type of thing. And then then the learning really started to happen under a lot of pressure. Do you know what I mean? Like that's when you learn, when you're actually making. So I think, yeah, I think courses give you a good starting point, good kickoff point. Do you
Yeah,
agree?
yeah, I think like it depends on your personality, like as in like I like know myself in the fact that like if I have no external pressure, my learning speed will be a lot slower. So
Right.
like it's like the same thing, right? It's like so like the same where like when I started like my first like typeface design, like like in-house foundry job, like it was like, oh shoot, like I have a call with my boss on Monday. Like I need to like do something because previously I think like if I was just doing my own student project, it'd be like it'd be like midnight and my file
Too
crashes,
hard.
and I'd be like, you know what? I tried hard enough, and I'm just like go away. But it's just like, if I have that thing, I'm like, oh no, like it crashed. Like I just need to rebuild this, right? So it's like it's not like it's like there's some magical idea about having a job, but it's just more so the fact that you end up you as in me end up putting so much more time and effort into it because of the pressure. So if you're the kind of
Right.
person who
The
doesn't
pressure
need
cooker is
that,
good.
then maybe you will be just as good without it. Juan, what do you think?
I agree. I compare it with like just going to school for graphic design, like they teach you the foundations, but once you like so many universities out there, 4-year program, 6-year program, 2-year program, you graduate and you're still kind of clueless about the real world, quote unquote. Some of them do a better job at giving you an internship. But compare that to like type design, which is like tiny, like you're obviously not gonna learn everything, and a lot of it just gonna come by doing. And you're serious about type, you're gonna have to like just do it and learn. But on the other side, I think there's also a lot of more support for type design because also such a small community. People are easier to reach out to. They're more open to sharing the ins and outs. The quote unquote competitive aspect. I would say it's very minimal. Most people are willing to open their doors for you, to a certain extent, obviously, but I guess that the foundation that was like establish a relationship with people, get to know them, right? Quote unquote, network in a more like open, friendly way. And yeah, develop those relationships. And yeah, I mean, I think the best a school, a program can do is teach you how to think like a type designer and how to draw. Because it's again, you can study type design for 2 years at a master's, and you still has so much to learn in terms of like drawing and technique and things like that. So
Mm.
if you did not connect with your peers or did not connect with your instructors, then you're missing out on everything, because that's the biggest thing.
Just make a lot, make,
Yeah,
which I don't think I could have done without by myself.
right.
So I understand.
Like,
I'm too
you know,
lazy.
I
Like I need the
and
pressure. I need an
yeah,
assignment,
me
but I need
too.
to be forced to complete it. Otherwise, I'll be like, no, I can't do this. It's too hard. And I know that
Yeah.
there's so many type designers that taught themselves that. I'm like, I don't know how you did that because that's a lot of self-motivation there.
Yeah, I mean, same. It's like, I'm that classic student. I mean, because I teach, but I also still take a lot of classes as a student. I'm definitely the student that like just doesn't is like really lazy for the middle of the semester and like just like like really like just has to give up on like 3 nights like right before the final project because I've been procrastinating for too long.
Yeah,
And I'm just
yeah.
like, yeah, like I tell my students not to do this. But, all
Well,
right,
that's
three
what
last questions.
type
Oh, sorry.
who is good for too. Like if you can link up with a few
Mm.
people and put in every 2 weeks meet with someone different, you've got like a deadline, you know.
Mm,
I think that's important. Give yourself little deadlines.
and people do that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, wow,
accountability.
that's smart.
Yeah. All right. There's three last questions. I think this one's pretty quick. What glyphs should be included to consider a typeface comprehensive in the Latin alphabet?
Mm.
I mean, again, I think this is like where it's intended for, is the answer that I would give. Like if like your audience is just like English and Spanish users, then like cover those two languages and you're good. But does it need to be used for the entirety of Europe? Then it's not comprehensive until you've covered those. Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I think most importantly, the most important thing that I learned is I didn't have to make all the things in the glyph set. It's my choice. It's my piece of art. I can make whatever I want. I can tailor it however I want. I don't have to make all of those things. That was my biggest learning.
Jean had a comment. Brazil here, so maybe that's what you meant. So, yeah, so it's really for your audience. So if it covers like Portuguese and maybe you're good, then maybe that's good to go. If you also want, if you want like your friends who use whatever other language to be using it, you need to cover those too. But you don't have to have everything finished and out when you're trying to release. I think it's also very reasonable to be like, here's the current language coverage. And if anybody needs anything else, like let me know. And I think that always works out fine too. Better
Mhm.
done than perfect, I say. All right. Okay, so second to last question. Where do you land on copyright in the type design world? When is it appropriate to pick another typeface as a starting point for revival or direct inspiration without it being straight up copying?
Mm.
That's like a long question. Long answer.
You'll know when you're copying something, is what I'll say. You'll know because you're gonna feel uncomfortable. You're gonna ask the question, is this too close? If you're asking that question, it's too close. You're copying. I mean, I often look at other typefaces for technical solutions, but I tend not to look at typefaces, not because I'm scared of copying. It's just not motivating to me. I want to make something new. I'd rather be inspired by, you know, street art or something,
Yeah.
or, whatever gets you going. I don't tend to look at other typefaces. So I think if you're finding yourself if you're asking yourself that question, you're probably too close. We don't want to spend all this time making something that's just a little bit different to something you can get for $20. I mean, that's just crazy. Invent something new.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's like the legal version of it, right? If like X% of it is different, if like points are in a different place, then you can sell it theoretically, but like, what is the real meaning of it? And then like two, like, will that even sell because it's so similar to someone else's? Like at that point, like I don't, there's like a loss,
Yeah,
like your time can
that's
be used in better
stealing.
places.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see the
Yeah.
point of doing this for admiration. Like, oh, I love this design so much. I want to like make my own version of it, which is, it's honorable. You can do that. Um, but I agree with Troy more the mindset of like, I want to make something new. If it's for myself on my own time with my own energy, like if I'm losing sleep over this, it's gonna be something different from the things that are already out there. Just because, like life is precious, time is precious.
Yeah, and I think if you're inspired by someone else's typeface and you want to make a different width or a different weight, just message them, go, hey, can I make a narrow version? Or, just talk to people. They might go, hey, I really need that and I don't have time. So yeah, let's work together on it or something rather than sneakily trying to copy it because it's not going to work really. It's
Yeah.
I don't think.
Oh no. Two extra questions have popped up. Okay, really quick. This is the question cutoff now, but still. I did want to address one question that came in. That's who asked, is there a checklist that you go through before completing a typeface? And please check out the recording with Romina in our previous session that covers font engineering. She covers really good resources like such as like Font Bakery and like different kinds of like things that she goes through. So definitely, or you can reach out to Ro, right? So there's another connection there for you. There's also a question about what do you think about using FontDo for self-publication? I have not used this. Do either of you have?
Yeah, I use
Oh,
yeah,
uh-huh.
for the back end of my Foundry website. It's great. I think I don't see the point in spending $30,000 on a Foundry website when you just open the door. It's kind of like renting a shop and not sure whether anyone's going to buy your product. FontDo allows you to just give it a go. And then maybe in 5 years' time, you're making tons of money. You can invest in getting a website tailored to exactly what you need.
I agree.
Yeah. All right. I think there's also I think we already answered this before. How could we sell to a design studio that need to have designers specializing in typography, type and lettering, knowing that like they don't, only they're not like a type foundry, like let's say. Um, I think like we spoke about before that like like the benefits of like having like your own like custom typeface and things like that that sort of like go like address this. But is there anything from you two that you would like to add on?
Was it about how to get a job in a design
Like a
studio?
design studio as like a type person.
I think if you're a type person, you definitely need that in your portfolio because that is an extra service that they will be able to offer. And not everyone has that skill. So that is your way in. As if you ask me, you should that's your way in. Just show them the type that you've made, and you're going to be the type expert in the studio. I mean, that's valuable. They use type every day, logo types, even if they're not making custom fonts. Did I
Yeah,
answer
I
the
mean,
question?
yeah, everything uses language, and language uses type. Like, yeah. All right.
Any-
Okay. Last. Oh, sorry, Juan.
No, no, last question. You're right.
Yes. Last question. Am I going to be backwards? Am I going to be going backwards in my career by going into type design as I'm a senior designer now? I'm assuming like in graphic design.
Mhm.
I think, like anything, you want to add it to your skill set and just push, build on that skill set. It's not a jump the ship type of thing. It's integrate it, specialize in it, and eventually that's what you'll be doing. Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
long-term thing, right?
It's not like a career switch. It's not like you're going from, design to
Specialize.
something completely unrelated.
Mm.
It's more like you're adding on to something you're already good at because you're a senior designer. If anything, there's more type design can learn from senior designers than the other way around. Um,
And I think you're in the perfect situation because you can implement any typeface that you make into your design. So you're almost like the maker and the seller in one, which is perfect. Like you'll be able to convince the client that this typeface is great or this solution's great, sold. Whereas that's much harder coming from my position.
right. And if you find out, oh, type design is not for me, then you at least already know like all the stuff that people want to know about type because type can be sometimes intimidating. And you can use that to hire your peers or even like be able to sell your designs by having this extra edge of being able to talk about typography at a level that perhaps only a few people can.
Yeah, and I think just to add to that, when you're in a studio and they are faced with the situation where they need to outsource the custom typeface, you will be the one that understands and is able to help them communicate with the type designer. And that's huge. So there's another, I don't think we need to look at becoming a full-time type designer anymore as a necessary thing. It's an added skill set that every graphic designer really should be aiming for because that's what you're doing every day.
Yeah, and as an added bonus, like you already know so many graphic designers and other like visual designers that will want to use your typeface, right? Like you
Right.
already have an
You're in
inbuilt
that
customer base.
community already. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I would say that's like a
Beautiful.
huge advantage,
Yeah.
right? I
Totally.
mean, yeah. And I also like totally plus one what you said about being the user and the maker, Troy, like, because I used to work in agencies for a while and like, I'd be like, oh, it's like, oh, then you like type, like you put together like the pitch deck for like this like brand typeface. And so like I would like make these little slide decks about like why this should be your next brand typeface, like right. And then like you like probably have so much of that experience that you were like, oh, okay, like I was trying to sell this kind of client that was looking for this vibe, but I couldn't find it, which means I can make that typeface now, right? Like you,
Right.
your own
Perfect.
researcher.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, awesome. I think those are
Great.
all the questions.
Yeah.
Oh,
Fantastic. That was
cool.
amazing. I love it when there's
Yeah,
lots of questions.
yeah. Hopefully that was all very helpful to you all, and thank you so much, Troy, for joining us. It's also really awesome
You're
to hear
welcome.
what you
Thank
think
you.
and yeah, picking your brains and all. Yeah. Well, do you have any plans for your Friday in Miami, Troy?
It's going to be an early night because tomorrow morning I got to present for the Type Share India conference at 10 a.m.,
Wow.
which is like 7:50 p.m. So yeah, it's going to be an early night tonight.
Awesome. Is there anything
Amazing.
you want to
Traveling all over the world.
Yeah,
What's that?
is there anything you want to plug? Anything you're doing
Yeah.
at the event tomorrow?
Oh, the event. Tomorrow for the event, I'm going to be talking about prototyping and pitching. So it's kind of like what we've been talking about today. It's like, how can we get our typefaces out there quicker rather than spending a year making a typeface and pitching it and then someone rejecting
Mm,
you and then you feel bad that you've spent a year on it. How can we make little prototypes, what I call type seeds or font seeds, and get them out there, make a lot, make almost like make a mock foundry with a bunch of projects fairly quickly so you can test the water. As a graphic designer, you can pitch it to clients. It's not only about being a type designer, submitting to a foundry. So that's what I'm going to be kind of talking about. And I'll be sharing a link to my prototyping template, um,
mhm.
which you'll be able to download as well.
Awesome.
So check it out.
Is there like a live stream or anything that folks can tune into, Troy?
Yeah, it's a live stream event. So um I'll type in here.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's what it's called, but I'm not sure I have
great.
a link. So
Very
Yeah.
fun.
Google that and you'll find it and sign.
Awesome. Is there any upcoming classes or talks or anything you want to plug, Troy?
I'm not doing any Cooper classes at the moment, just the coaching. So you can check out typemasters.xyz for a little
Mm,
information on that. But reach out with any questions. Feel free to DM me or drop me an email. But that's
mm.
kind of what I'm doing at the moment. Yeah. But thank you
Yeah,
for the opportunity.
there. Oh, of course. Like, I mean, like, there you have it, folks. You have the links. You know how to talk to Troy.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Seen the man
Well
himself.
said.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. With
Thank you
that, we
so
will leave
much.
you all. Thank you so much, Troy. Thank you
Thank
so much,
you. Thanks,
Juan.
everyone. Take care. Bye-bye.
Everyone.
Bye-bye.